today, and they just wrapped up their meeting. They got a chance to discuss issues that matter most to Canadians. When it comes to Alberta, joining us fresh off the press conference is Alberta's Premier, Jason Kenney. Premier, it's always great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Tell us the big one or two things you think you achieved consensus with the other premiers on.
Well, we were frankly elated to get consensus on two of our key demands. One is a reform of something called the Fiscal Stabilization program to give Alberta a much fairer deal. Basically, this is a program that has existed for a long time from the federal government to provide transfers to have provinces that have had a sudden decline in revenues. Like Alberta, our revenues dropped off by $7 billion, or 20%, 5 years ago. And we still haven't recovered from that, obviously. And we continue to have a jobs crisis. So the premiers are unanimously calling on the federal government to lift the cap on that program, give us retroactive payments. This would be worth upwards of a couple of $2 billion. It doesn't solve all of our problems by any means, but it is an important expression of solidarity on the part of the other provinces for the plight of Alberta today. And I can tell you, I hope the federal government will listen to this call. If they do give us those additional transfers that we deserve objectively, that we would put that money to work, trying to get people back to work, to job creation programs, like, for example, remediating abandoned wells in the oil field. The second key thing was a commitment to call on the federal government to work with us fixing the problems in the Bill C-69, what I call the No More Pipelines Law, Federal Environmental Assessment Act.
What's the deal with Bill C-69? I think we've had kind of mixed signals from Ottawa. Are they open, as far as you're concerned, to changing Bill C-69, the Environmental Approval Act?
I think so. I had a very good meeting with the new Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Intergovernmental Relations, Chrystia Freeland, in Edmonton last week, and obviously this is one of our top demands for fairness in the Federation, is we are calling for repeal of Bill C-69 or a complete rewrite. I remind you the Senate accepted upwards of 180 amendments to rewrite the bill, including the majority of senators appointed by Justin Trudeau, the majority of Liberal senators, and they accepted amendments put forward by the previous NDP government of Alberta. This is not a partisan question. It's about jobs. It's about regulatory certainty. It's about stopping the flight of capital from Canada to the rest of the world. So we are going to continue to plead with the federal government to hear us on that. And now Minister Freeland, I think, did indicate to me an openness on this issue. Oh. I don't know how far they're prepared to go, but I can tell you that next week I'll be going to Ottawa with Team Alberta, with several of my senior ministers and officials, to make the case, we think, strengthened by the unanimous call of Canada's premiers today.
Let me press you on that. I mean, do you think, did Ms. Freeland, who's now really Minister for National Unity de facto, did she indicate that they would change Bill C-69?
That's not what she said, but she indicated an openness on the issues. So we'll see what their level of scope of ambition is. Look, the federal government, I appreciate the appointment of Minister Freeland, but what we need to see is actions, not words. It's no secret there is deep frustration in Alberta, driven by 5 years of economic decline and stagnation. Alberta has been the engine of Canada's modern economy, has been the huge magnet of foreign investment, of high-paying jobs, of over $20 billion a year in fiscal transfers across the country. All we ask for is a fair deal, and that's got to start with getting reasonable rules around environmental assessment, so hopefully we can get pipelines proposed and built in the future.
Now, you're considering, or you've discussed the idea of withdrawing from the Canada Pension Plan. You probably know the Premier of Newfoundland has criticised that idea, and also a powerful voice in Alberta, the Leo DeBaver of AIMCO, the giant investment manager, has been critical of that idea. Would you actually press ahead with that, pulling out of the CPP?
Well, I talked to Leo about this. I'm not sure he's critical. I think he said that he saw this as more about political leverage than an actual change. Look, we are consulting with Albertans starting tomorrow night with our first Fair Deal Town Hall that will happen in Edmonton. That panel will be hearing from folks on this and other ideas about how more strongly to assert Alberta within the Federation. Quebec has effectively run its own provincial pension plan since the 1960s. And it's also helped to develop a financial services industry around the Caisse de dépôt. We could take the $45 billion of premiums that are currently under management by the CPP Investment Board, move that to AIMCO, which gets very good returns, and we would save at least $3 billion a year because we have the youngest population. That means we are subsidizing the CPP to the tune of $3 billion a year. That means we could reduce premiums, I think, by as much as $500 a year. That in turn would create jobs. So there's a lot of upside, but there's a lot that we have to study here. We have not made a decision, and we would only make a final decision if Albertans gave us the green light in a referendum.
Yeah, I suppose DeBaver said, well, it wouldn't make a great deal of sense from an administrative efficiency point of view, but he said, really, the real issue is getting the oil to market. And that's what Alberta...
Look, all of this is about... Look, I think that the case for provincial pension plan may stand on its own merits, but we're also looking for issues like this to demonstrate we have leverage in the Federation.
Okay, and I always love talking to you, because you do keep it concise. You're great compared to a lot of other politicians, whom I won't name. We did get...
And I'm of Irish origin. Who knew? What are the chances of that?
I know, yeah, that's right. Flahulach, that's an Irish word for over-generous and going on too long. Anyway, on a more serious note, Husky Energy, you probably saw this, cutting capital spending by $500 million over 2 years. A lot of that spending is going to be in Western Canada. So I guess that does feed into your case that something has to be done to revive the sector.
No, absolutely, and we're doing everything we can. And by the way, we do believe there's some good news on the horizon here. Yesterday, Enbridge commissioned the Canadian portion of Line 3. Right. That adds 100,000 barrels a day of egress. We've brought in special production allowances, exempting incremental crude ship by rail. That should increase by about 250,000 the number of barrels taken out by rail, up to a logistical maximum, we think, of 550,000. Pipeline optimization and deblockage should add, through the course of 2020, another 200,000 or perhaps 300,000 barrels of movement, and then early 2021 we hope to see the Line 3 replacement completed down to the U.S. Pad 2 in the Midwest. Altogether, I think in the next 18 months we're going to be adding upwards of 800,000 barrels of egress from Alberta. That means we'll be getting a fair price with flexibility on shipment, and I'm optimistic about Trans Mountain. We've given an exemption from curtailment on additional barrels produced through new conventional drilling, and that should get the service sector back to work in some respect. We're cutting business taxes by a third, cutting red tape by a third. So I know that we're still facing some headwinds, but we have to be optimistic about the next couple of years.
What do you do? Do you sometimes feel, though, that you're just fighting your way into a wind here? Because there's so much divestment going on. We see banks saying, well, we're going to back away from lending to coal and hydrocarbon projects. Meanwhile, you, in some sense, have circled the wagons. I mean, you've got your inquiry into what you say is a foreign campaign against Alberta oil. Is there a way you could reach out?
I don't see it.
Go ahead, please, Premier.
Yeah, I don't see it as circling the wagons at all. I see it as a couple of things. First of all, fighting back against the foreign-funded interest groups that have had it run an effective campaign to landlock Canadian energy over the past decade. These are the folks engaged in the campaign of legal harassment, the political campaign that killed Northern Gateway Energy East, delayed Trans Mountain, delayed Keystone, etc. And so we have to push back. I think they focused on Canada as opposed to the OPEC dictatorships or Russia precisely because we are so apologetic, because they took our liberal democratic values as a weakness, and that's how they saw it, that we would be easily influenced. And we need to push back using democratic arguments and accountability. But on the other side, you're absolutely right. We do need to reach out more proactively to financial institutions, many of whom are making decisions on environmental social governance metrics against the oil sands in particular, which are not based on current objective data, which reflect that we've reduced carbon intensity from the oil sands by 30% over 20 years. We're on track to reduce by another 20%. We've got amazing new technologies coming on stream. I believe that we will be able to make a case that the most responsible barrel of oil, environmentally and socially, will be coming from Canada.
Let me just ask, though, about that war room, and I know we could talk about this all day, but, I mean, these activists are up against a multi-billion-dollar industry. So they get a few $1 million from supporters in the States. And you're right, of course, Canada is a democracy, so their tactics work here. Good luck with doing anything like that in Saudi. You make a fair point there. But is it really a bit of a red herring, the amount of money they're getting from America?
You know, I think that, well, I've always criticized the energy companies in Canada for not having done nearly enough to inform the public about basic energy literacy or our improving environmental performance. They've tended to just take a pass on this, and we can't do that anymore. But this is not penny ante coming from these interest groups. I mean, Tom Steyer, a U.S. hedge fund billionaire, who, by the way, made part of his fortune on on gas and coal, he openly admits to having spent $200 million in a campaign to block and oppose the Keystone XL pipeline. The Rockefeller Brothers Foundation is behind this, for heaven's sake. The Hewlett-Packard Foundation. These are big sources of money. And by the way, both NATO and the U.S. Congress have concluded that there's been Russian government money behind efforts to oppose shale gas development and pipelines in Western Europe, for example. So that's why we have an inquiry into the public sources of funds behind the campaign to landlock Canadian energy.
Premier, I think we'll have to leave it there. Leave us with a final thought. You're going to meet with the Prime Minister shortly. What will be your #1 request to him?
A guarantee and a timeline for the completion of the Trans Mountain expansion and a commitment to ensure the rule of law in that project so that the radical interest groups know that they will not be able to stop the rule of law in the construction of that project. That would be our first request in our fight for fairness.
You must be concerned, though, if we get the kayaktivists and people physically trying to block it, for example, in BC, that there will be violence. I mean, I know nobody wants to see that.
This has been the most reviewed and studied and lawyered and litigated pipeline project, I think, in world history. It's approved. It's been approved at every step of the way. Listen, if we can't get this one done, then we're telling the world we can't get anything big done, that we cannot develop infrastructure, that we cannot get a fair price for our resources, and that we are no longer a country of the rule of law. I don't believe that reflects the reality in Canada. We've got to show the world we can get these things done again.
Premier, concise as ever. Thank you very much indeed. And have a safe trip home and have a great visit to our province. That's Alberta's Premier,
Sláinte.
Jason Kenney. Good one.